Hi everybody, welcome to this video where I want to show you some tools, more specifically from Google, that can help you when you have to write academic papers. And so I want to focus on two different tools. First, I want to show you NotebookLM, which I think is a very nice tool to communicate with PDFs. And then I want to show you how in the AI Studio of Google you can actually upload a lot of papers and subsequently start prompting to get support in your writing process. So these are the two things that I want to illustrate today. So let's first go to NotebookLM. So here you can see NotebookLM. So what I did here in NotebookLM is I uploaded 4 PDFs. These are 4 PDFs on the topic of organizational legitimacy. So these are academic papers. And now let's imagine that I want to get some insights about what is written in these papers. For instance, I'm interested in the topic of external legitimacy. So now we could ask NotebookLM to give us some insights on that topic. So here now I can prompt, can you tell me more about the definition of external legitimacy? Then I can press enter. And now you see it's generating a response for me. So now we have to briefly wait. And here we can see now the response. So if we go up a bit, we can now see that it gives me quite some information about external legitimacy. So it's saying external legitimacy is often associated with external endorsements. And the nice thing is that actually continuously in the response, it will provide references to particular pieces from these PDFs. So here it's not going somewhere else. It's solely relying on the input of the PDFs to give an answer. And in that way, it's very reliable to get good information from papers. So if you want to extract information from papers, this is a very useful tool. A very nice gadget of NotebookLM is that you can also create a podcast. So when you upload PDFs, it will start creating a podcast. And so here it actually created a podcast about these 4 papers. So we can briefly look or listen to what it is saying here.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are going to do a deep dive into the world of organizational legitimacy, all thanks to some research papers you sent over. Yeah. And we're going to be looking at how companies gain that all-important trust and acceptance that they need to thrive.
Right. So here it actually gives me now a 22-minute podcast where it will discuss the main insights of these papers. And in my experience, it actually gives a very nice overview. And actually today, they also have now the interactive mode, which means that you can actually intervene in the podcast. And let me briefly show how that works.
Deep dive. So today we are going to do a deep dive into the world of organizational legitimacy, all thanks to some research papers. Oh wait, someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Hi, can you, before we go forward, explain what organizational legitimacy exactly means?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it's really important we're all on the same page.
Yeah, let's unpack this. So when we talk about organizational legitimacy, we're talking about how a company gains acceptance.
It's more than just following rules. It's about fitting into a society's cultural norms.
Think of it like a company earning
so here you see how you can create a podcast, but even talk with the podcast host and intervene to get more information if you want. So in that way, it's quite an entertaining tool if you want to listen to papers instead of read papers. So that's what NotebookLM is able to do. So this is really an interesting tool to have conversations about what is written in papers and to easily get insights from different papers. A second tool that I want to highlight is the Google AI Studio. And like NotebookLM, this is completely free. The only thing you need is a Google account. And in the Google AI Studio, you can simply create prompts and chat like you can do in ChatGPT of OpenAI or in Claude AI. But the interesting thing is that actually in Google, you have, for instance, in the Gemini 1.5 model, so here I use the Gemini 1.5 Pro, you actually can add 2 million tokens, which is much more than in the other models. So actually, given that you have a huge context window, you can actually dump papers into your context window. And in that way, the large language model will have direct access to it. So what I did here, I'm doing a research project on corporate venture capital and legitimacy. I simply dumped into the context window a huge amount of papers on this topic that I have identified in my literature review. And now, given these papers, I can start interacting via prompting to actually get help in my writing process. And let me show you what I did here. So here are all the papers that I dumped into my context window. You see I'm using like 1,300,000 tokens, so that's quite a lot. And so now let's take a look at the prompt that I've written here. So let's make it a bit bigger. Yeah, so the prompt that I've written here is actually, I now give it a paragraph that I have written, and I ask it to kind of review this paragraph and give suggestions on how I can improve it. So let me take a closer look at the prompt. So I'm saying I've written some paragraphs about the challenges that corporate venture capital units face when trying to gain external legitimacy. Below you find my preliminary results. Based on the provided papers, can you review this paragraph and provide suggestions about what I could further improve? So here you can actually see the text simple that I have written. And now I've asked it to improve the text. So now we can kind of send it out. So let me do that. So now we can run the prompts. And now it starts running. This will take a while because, of course, I have given it 1,300,000 tokens. So this will take more time than a traditional prompt. Typically, in my experience, it will take like 2-3 minutes, but then we will get a response. Okay, now it's finished, and this took like 200 seconds, so that's definitely a bit more than just executing a normal prompt. But again, that's because we have created this huge context window with 1.3 million tokens. But so now we have received an answer, and you will see it now gives me quite some suggestions on how to improve this particular section that I have written. So it's about refine and focus the opening, provide more nuance, develop the consciousness of internal support, connect fragility. So we see a lot of things. Here, for instance, I think this is an interesting one. Expand on the dynamics of legitimacy building. So that sounds for me as an interesting thing to do. But you see, it gives me quite some suggestions. And actually, it already tried to come up with an improved paragraph for me. Now, this is something I would not take into account because I don't really know what it did, what it took into account, and then actually as a writer you lose control about your writing, so I don't think we should just accept the changes that it makes. But now let's try to at least that it can help us to improve our writing. So now I will give it a new instruction, so I will edit this here, because it said, okay, you can improve the dynamics of legitimacy building. So let's try to do that. So here is a prompt that I prepared. So let me show it to you. So here I ask it, can you help me to expand on the dynamics of legitimacy building in this section? Please rely on the papers and make sure to explicitly reference papers when necessary. It's important to only make changes where it is really necessary. For each sentence where you make changes, add start and finish at the beginning and the end of the sentence. So why do I write this prompt in this way? Again, I want to keep control on the writing. I need to be in charge. So I want to make sure that I can easily identify where it made changes so that I can also evaluate these changes and to see whether it actually improved my text or made it worse. You know? So now again, we can start running. And again, this will take a while because it still has this huge context window. Yes, and now again, it is finished. Again, this took like 230 seconds. So you have to be a bit patient here if you use these huge context windows. So now let's take a look at the output that has been generated. And so here it mentions that it only revised the second paragraph. So it kept the first paragraph intact. And here we can now see the changes to the second paragraph. And so as instructed, you will see that here, for instance, it mentions start. So this is a sentence where it made changes, and here the sentence stopped. Then this sentence was not changed because there is no start and finish. So in that way, I can now carefully analyze which sentences have been changed, which sentences kept intact. And it's also a way of making sure that you discipline yourself to fully double check everything that is written. Yeah, because now we have this start finish into my text. Of course, I don't want to have that in my final draft. So it's actually pushing me to really control everything that it's written to see whether it helped me to improve the text or whether it made the text worse. And I think this is very important because we don't want generative AI to take over the writing. We want it to help us, to improve us, but we need to stay into control. And I hope that you can see that by this way of prompting, you can get very helpful support from the tool, but you are still in control of the writing, and I think that's very important. Because, of course, you can imagine a scenario where people use this to just from a blank sheet ask the tool here to develop text, and to be honest, it will generate reasonably good text, but it will not create perfect text. And I think if you really want to go for high quality text to be able to publish in high level journals, that's not the right strategy to apply. So I think here, if you want to use it for high quality text, you need to see it more as an assistant that can help you to refine text, and where you need to prompt it in such a way that you are pushing yourself to continuously double check everything that is changed. Okay, I hope that this was helpful to give you some inspiration on how you can use these tools to help you in the writing process, to get insights from papers, to get inspiration of how you can change your paragraph, and also to get suggestions on how to change it, and at the same time to stay in control of the writing process. So if this was helpful, please like the video, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, where I will regularly post videos about how we can leverage generative AI for academic research. Thank you.